Hello, I'm Will McPhee from System Support, and welcome to Looking Out, where we explore the challenges that small businesses and medium-sized businesses face in technology every day. I'm joined here today with Dave Iava from Coastal Payment Solutions. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well today. So, Dave has been in the payment card industry for over 6 years, reselling various solutions, and he is focused on restaurants, retail, and professional services. So, Dave, tell me a little bit about Coastal Payment.
Well, like you said, we formed the business about 6 years ago. We do focus on the restaurant industry. It's our primary segment. We do a little bit of retail, but we're now getting heavily into the service side of business. We handle all payment functionality from checks to credit card processing to the actual equipment. So we pretty much are a one-stop shop solution.
Awesome. So what are some examples of customers that you help out? Are there any like all-stars that you have here on the South Shore, or what comes to mind for your typical customer?
Our typical customer is going to be a small to mid-sized business. We have several restaurant groups up in Boston. One called the Three Island Group, which does all types of Caribbean type foods, and they're a very, very strong company. Each one of their locations is a 200,000 plus per month location, so they're a pretty big customer. So they're probably our biggest group that we work with.
Excellent. So if there's a business out there that takes credit cards, maybe wants to look into speaking with you to figure out more about the included equipment, what's some questions that they should be asking themselves before approaching you?
Well, the question we get the most is, what's your rate? That's the first thing we hear. Obviously it's important. This obviously goes right to your bottom line, but security is a big issue that they should be considering. Good equipment, good service, and good support are the three things that they should be looking for. One of the most important questions is if something goes wrong, how are we going to resolve that? And having a structure in place to actually correct those problems for the customer quickly and efficiently is really going to be what's going to matter to the business after they get the rate they're looking for.
Excellent. So here at Looking Out this month, we've been focused on cybersecurity compliance laws, and while not a law, Payment Card Industry Data Standards, or PCI Compliance for short, is an important one that affects a lot of businesses, given that most people use credit cards, especially millennials like myself, because I never carry cash anymore, because why should I?
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about PCI Compliance. I know from the IT side, we work on firewalls and the different ways that hackers could just get at data or try and record any data that moves over a network.
Mm-hmm.
But from the payment card side, what are some of the steps that a business can take to make sure that they're in line with PCI compliance?
Well, PCI compliance is really a multi-phase approach to protecting the end consumer's credit card processing. First of all, the one thing that has to be in place is a firewall to make sure that the data is being protected from any type of malicious software or any type of intrusion. The second part that has to take place is you have to protect it in transition, which is where most of the hackers are looking to jump in and grab credit cards, is actually in the transition phase. So most POS companies and credit card terminal companies are going to provide point-to-point encryption, okay, to take care of that. Third aspect of it is protection of information on site. Are you going to store credit card data, or are you not going to store credit card data? My advice to anyone that is processing credit cards is, let's not store the credit card data. If you're going to use, especially if you're a website-based company that has some type of a shop online, you really want to use a third-party vendor that uses tokenization. And all that basically means is that you're processing the credit card, especially if you're doing a monthly payment structure. The credit card goes off, the token is placed, so the token takes the place of the credit card information, and when you need that credit card information again, it goes and pulls it from a data center, runs the credit card, puts it back, puts another token on your system. So that's a way of protecting you. And then the fourth phase of PCI compliance is basically kind of internal auditing. People, it's kind of a need-to-know type of a environment. People who shouldn't be doing credit card transactions shouldn't do credit card transactions, okay? And like, for example, in a restaurant, there's no reason for a cook to run a credit card. Okay, they shouldn't come out, they shouldn't help, they shouldn't be part of the process, and everybody should be individually authorized through their own PIN, so that all credit card transactions can be tracked back to the end user. So we want to, when a credit card gets run, in the event that something should happen, we want to know who it was, who did it, who processed the credit card. So if you handle all four phases of PCI compliance, you're never really going to have a problem.
So let's say that I do have a cook or something come out, or somebody who's not authorized runs and swipes the card, and it turns out that the cook had manipulated the tip that was at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
That might happen in a small restaurant or something. What are some of the consequences that could come back on a business for that?
For individual items, individual violations of PCI compliance like that, there's not that much that's involved as far, because that's something internal. It's something they could prosecute for. It's something that could be handled on site through like a local police department. So that's not more a big event. Like when you have a breach of that system, okay, because they don't have PCI compliance, the fines can be horrendous. I mean, like catastrophic, like put you out of business catastrophic. Fines range from $5,000 up to $100,000 per incident. So what happens is the banks get charged these fines, and these fines will then be passed to the end user, which is the business itself. So for relatively modest fee to get yourself protected, okay. In most cases, a lot of the third-party companies out there, like if you bring a POS company in, a good POS company is going to do it for you. You're not even really have to worry about it. Where you get into some trouble is when you go out and you buy like a used POS system, and you didn't know how to set up your firewall properly, and you implement this system saying, hey, look, I saved some money on my POS equipment, but now you're not protected because you don't have the tokenization process, you don't have the firewall, you don't even know what the procedures are internally in your restaurant. That's where the dangers happen, is when we start picking up used equipment. But most third-party vendors now are pretty good at establishing PCI. Where people have run into problems business-wise, small retail and home-based businesses. Home-based businesses are an absolute target because for a lot of different reasons. Number one is when someone when you're looking up, when I say home-based businesses, these could include things like dentist offices and law firms who just don't have a lot of the knowledge base to handle this correctly. If that PC is being utilized to run credit cards through a virtual terminal, okay, and someone has access to video games, it's constantly connected to broadband and not protected properly, that's the number one person that hackers are going after, because they're low-hanging fruit, easy to get to, easy to steal. And when you have a home-based business, and you're making little wristbands that you're selling for $8, and all of a sudden you get a $100,000 fine, it's not something we're looking for,
So what's a way that if I am a business that just set up their Verizon FiOS router, they've got an Android tablet with the Square plugged in, they just swipe the credit card, what are some of the ways that I could get in trouble there?
If you're using something like Square or another type like Pay Anywhere, most of the compliance is handled for you from the encryption phase. Okay, where you can get in trouble is how are you storing that information? Did you write it down did you write their number down on a notepad and then type it in later because you didn't have your swipe? That could be a problem. Okay, because now if you're storing that information, and even like some private gyms that don't have advanced technology, they're just like a local private gym would do this. They'll go hand put in the credit card information every month to run their client's monthly membership, rather than going out to a third party. Okay, you are now storing credit card information, and there are PCI compliance standards for that, which means all that information that's stored needs to be in a biometrically secured environment, which means the room it's stored in, you need biometrics to go into that room. Even our company that Alyssa and I run, when we get an application, once we're done, we remove the application. Once the person's approved at HarborTouch, we destroy any physical copies and we remove the application from our computer, so it's not there. If we were to store that paperwork in files, that room would have to be biometrically secured in order to protect us against PCI compliance, because if that information gets stolen from us, that's a violation of PCI compliance against Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. They can come after us too. So the biggest problem with small users for like hand swipes is they tend to do silly things, like someone will call them on the phone, I want to order this, now let me write down the number, and that number never goes anywhere. And then all of a sudden, your daughter's friend comes over, grabs that credit card information, goes to a store and buys something off that credit card information. So you really got to protect the end user. That's the most important thing. If you just think about that all the time, how do I protect the end user, you're going to keep yourself out of some trouble.
So speaking of end users, I know I've been all over the place shopping around on the South Shore of either swipe or insert, and it seems to be sometimes the terminal just is acting up at Stop and Shop or something, or some places just don't have the chip insertion. So what can you tell me about how we're rolling out the chip for all credit card processing going forward?
Well, in order to answer that question appropriately, I have to tell you the story behind it. Okay, so EMV, which is the chip, stands for European MasterCard Visa. Okay, and someone got a great idea that will bring this to America, which is problematic because we do tipping here, and in Europe there's no tipping. So being able to tip a restaurant is something that's not easy to do from a mechanical point of view. Once you transact that and that deal is closed, that chip is allowing you the transaction. How do you put a tip on it later? So that became a systematic problem for the industry. The entire country was supposed to be EMV compliant by 2015. We're about 50% compliant in 2018. Okay. Now I'm sure you're familiar with Y2K.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
The world didn't blow up. The world didn't explode. The net result of Y2K? It was a massive nationwide computer upgrade. Okay, which I think is why it was promoted. but EMV was kind of the same thing. We're caught between technologies, and they wanted to sell a lot of equipment. Okay, and this was an opportunity to sell a lot of equipment. So now that the banks have jumped on board to protect the merchant, okay, if you process a credit card with a swipe and you just swipe it, you're no longer protected against chargebacks. If it's an EMV chipset and you pop it in, now you can actually make a complaint back when someone wants to do a chargeback. You can say, no, I have the signed copy. They used the PIN. They punched in the number. This is our money, and the bank basically has no defense and has to pay you. Okay. The other way, they're not paying you at all. They're not even listening to a conversation. If you use the swipe card, they're not even going to listen to a conversation. The customer is going to get their money back, and that's going to be the end of it. Okay. This was the EMV and PIN chipset is a stopgap between the old way of swiping and phone payments, which is the way the industry is going. By like 2025, probably 70% of all credit card transactions will strictly be through phones, because it is almost unbeatable right now, because the way the banks, the phones are operating on tokenization as well. So when you take a photo of your credit card to get it onto your phone to use for Apple Pay or Google Pay, the phone is setting up a relationship with the bank, creating a tokenization process and removing the card from your phone. So even though you lose the phone, you don't have to cancel your cards. Nobody can use it because it's biometric now with the new Samsungs and the new Apples. So it's a completely protected way, and as far as I know, to date, no one's been able to hack it. So we're moving in that direction. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, someone's bound, some 18-year-old kid in his father's basement is probably going to figure out how to do it. But as of right now, it's pretty secure. And the industry is moving in that direction. So you're going to see more near-field communication devices out there, and you're going to see more Apple Pay, more Google Pay. Samsung Pay is just came out a few months ago, so you're going to see Samsung Pay. And then you have additional third parties like PayPal, who is looking to find ways to bypass the middlemen in this process and do it themselves. So there's a lot of different things happening technology-wise. And the most important, I would say, to anybody who has credit card terminals or has POSs, is to stay current with the technology, stay current with your updates. That's the most important thing. You're going to spend some money, okay, along the way as I upgrade technology, but if you don't upgrade technology and you don't stay PCI compliant, you're giving Visa, MasterCard, American Express, JCB the opportunity to really hit you with some significant fines, and they're not doing it to make money, they're doing it because, it's costing there's billions and billions of dollars in credit card fraud every year. And it's driving the rates up. So when a customer says, why am I paying high rates? You didn't secure your system. You're making everybody else pay for it. So it is a process, and it's not a hard process. It's not a complicated process. Most of it is actually pretty much common sense. So if you work with the company, get your firewall put up, if you're using a regular credit card terminal, and the credit card companies themselves, the processors, if you don't stay PCI compliant, if you don't do it every year, you're going to find a $19.99 charge per month on your bill until you do it. And they don't care either way because they're the processor. So if you get fined, you get fined. But I'm making $19 because you're not. So it's important that you keep up with your PCI compliance. It's worth it. It's one of those things where you don't want to do it. You don't feel like you should have to do it. But at the end of the day, it's better to do it because if it happens, you're protected. And you don't want to, like I said, the fines are very harsh. They will put you out of business. If you're not a very strong financial company, it's just not worth it. So make sure you do your PCI compliance.
Yeah, and it looks like, too, as you mentioned with the EVM chips, that an unscrupulous customer, if they wanted to, who was wise to it could take a look at that, see that it was just a swipe, and just punch for free meal after free meal.
It's killing the restaurants that don't have EMV readers yet, because about half the POS companies, half the companies, their equipment is actually certified by MasterCard Visa. That's been the holdup. Everybody's invented their technology. They've gotten in line with MasterCard Visa. They're certifying it. And so when a POS company doesn't have it yet, it's not because they're behind the technology. It's because MasterCard Visa hasn't gotten their compliance done yet. So those restaurants are getting killed with chargebacks because people are doing exactly what you just said. They know, they go in, they'll eat there 4 or 5 times, they'll call their bank and say, I never ate there, and all of a sudden they get 5 free meals. And there's nothing the restaurant can do about it, because as far as the banks look at it, is because you don't have the PIN as of yet, we don't have a need to pay you. We're going to protect our customer, and the heck with you guys. So and so there's a lot of individual merchant fraud going on right now. I mean, that's not merchant, but consumer fraud going on right now because of that. So you also, if you're starting a restaurant today, if you're starting a retail business today, you get the question you have to ask, going back to our first part of our conversation, you have to ask, does your equipment have EMV? And if it doesn't have EMV, you can't go with that vendor.
So how does EMV work for online stores? So say that I wanted to just set up some type of resale through a website to sell those little bracelets out of my house.
You don't need EMV online, because EMV is capturing a whole plethora of data. So there's no reason for a chin set, because it's like, when you put your card in, it's Dave Iava. Here's my address, here's my phone number, here's my 3-digit code. You're giving an impossible amount of information for someone to really fraud, unless they took your card, know exactly where you live, and know everything about you.
Yeah, well,
right.
Well, they made a fake web page and just grabbed it by slapping something over
right.
Amazon really quick.
Exactly, and telephone call-ins for credit cards and web-based applications fall under a different part of PCI compliance than where EMV would fall. And there's actually 4 levels to EMV compliance. One is like the $6 million company and over. Then it's, I think tier 2 is 1 million to 6 million, then 20,000 to 1 million, and then 20,000 and under. So most of the web-based solutions, most of them, not like Amazon. Amazon would be a level 1. Most of our web-based solutions are level 4s, which don't require as much security as like a level 1. But Equifax was a level 1, and look where that got them.
And here we are.
And that is the number 1 reason to be PCI compliance, because everybody's data is everywhere right now. I mean, when you think about the Equifax breach, it was 141 million accounts. That represents pretty much every adult in the United States who has a credit card or a social security number. So there's a lot of opportunity for fraud that's going to happen in the next several years. So I mean, if I was giving anyone advice, I would say, be PCI compliance and make sure your social security number is protected monthly as well, because Equifax breach is the dragon's head that's going to come out from this hasn't even begun yet, and so that's something to watch.
Yeah, it was shocking too. I was watching a video from DEF CON where on stage they downloaded and set up a Tor browser, which allows you to go through the dark web.
Sure.
And on stage they went to a few of the famous credit card sales areas.
Right.
They just went to it.
Yeah.
Just scrolled through.
Yep.
So like we're not like, obviously, as you can see in front of all these witnesses, we're not doing anything. DEF CON is a fun conference in Las Vegas once a year where all the top hackers get together. Right. And the advice there is like, don't come with a phone, don't come with a computer, don't come with anything electronic, because somebody's going to get into it.
Right. Exactly.
And part of the conference with this talk here, they're talking through the Tor browser and all the different pieces for it, but it was shocking how quickly it was all that credit card data is there, and as cheap as $1. Yeah. You could pay $1 to get somebody's credit card information and do whatever. And I'm sure almost everybody today has had some type of credit card breach. I mean, I've had the little test purchase at a floral shop in Florida for $5 before they whacked it for more, and then somebody bought $500 worth of chicken at a fast food restaurant on my Bank of America card.
Yeah, and it becomes aggravating because I have a JetBlue card to get some air miles, and I do a lot of advertising online, and every single time I do advertising online, my card gets shut down, and I gotta call my card. I gotta say, nope, it is me, and the result is less convenience, and it's only going to get worse because I like I said, I think that that Equifax breach hasn't come home yet. And when it does, I think there's going to be a lot of issues. So, protect yourself personally, and that's important too, because when you fill out a credit card application, you're guaranteeing it by your Social Security number. Okay, so if you get this breach can affect you over here too. So you want to make sure that you're protected in both areas. So what's that? LifeLock,
Yeah.
is a good thing to have to protect your social, which is great because it also insures you in case all kinds of money is stolen from you. But PCI compliance is essentially the LifeLock for the credit card industry. That's really the best way to look at it. The nice part about it, you don't have to pay a monthly fee. Just get it done. There are managed service providers out there that actually do this. Will help you go through the paperwork process, do a scan, make sure that you don't have vulnerabilities, and then you're ready to go. And a good company, if you're in the PCI compliance stage 2 or 3, you probably want to scan every 90 days. So find a managed service provider, just kind of get on that cycle. So if you're in that $1 million range, or I would say level 2, 400,000 a year and above, you should be looking to do those scans every 90 days. If you're below that, which is most of the small businesses you'll find around here, you just need to do it once a year.
Yeah, and I know part of our network health check that we provide for our customers, there are a few switches we can turn on that will do the PCI compliance pen tests.
Great.
So it'll do the first check for what ports do you have open? Does this computer sniff this? How easy can I see the other Internet of Things around? And then after that, the PCI compliance has some more in-depth pieces. And the best part is it's so easy to automate, and the reports are relatively easy to understand.
Sure.
It's geek speak for us on close this, open this, set a policy for there, and then for the customer, I'm good, I have stuff to do, or uh-oh.
Right. But that's important for your clients that actually have credit card processing or accept that sort of stuff. Doing that PCI compliance, it's one of those things where nobody thinks about because they haven't been attacked. Okay. But the day you're attacked, you're going to be very thankful. You're going to be very thankful that your company took the time to actually take care of that for you, because the fines are, they're breathtakingly brutal.
And as Ben Franklin says, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
In this case, it's worth a ton of cure, because I don't have $100,000 lying around, So
I did, I wouldn't be here.
Right, exactly. So it really is critically important that it gets done.
So it seems that the final thought to leave here for PCI compliance, and if I'm a business that runs credit card, is just get that health check done once. It sounds like if you're on the smaller side, you can get it done once. And then as a smarter business that runs $1 million a year, do it every 90 days. Just like if you're an athlete. If you're a weekend warrior and you just work out every once in a while, go get your physical, this case being the PCI compliance. But if you're a top athlete, your doctor is looking at you all the time, and it's no different for running credit cards. Yeah,
that's important. It's typically right now 70% of revenue is run on credit cards. So it's 70% of your revenue protected. And that's the bottom line. It's like a health checkup every 90 days. It's so worth it. It's you got to do it.
Well, thank you so much for coming out, Dave. How can people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with us at coastalpaymentsolutions.com, or you can call us at 774-454-6236.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. And I'm Will McPhee from System Support for looking out. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.